Hello friends, welcome to my complete Java course. This video lecture is the continuation of my previous video lecture of exception handling. So let's start. So today we are going to learn what is Java throw keywords. Throw keywords in exception handling. The Java throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception. Till now, the exception is raised in the program is thrown by the so till now the application throw the exception, but sometimes the requirement is we need to throw the exception. For throwing the exception by the programmer use the throw keyword. The throw keyword is mainly used to throw custom exception. We will see custom exception later. Java throw keyword example. In this example, we have created a validate method that takes integer value as a parameter. If the age is less than 18, then we are throwing the arithmetic exception, otherwise print a message welcome to boot. Okay, so let's see an example. In this example, we create a class test throw one and we create a method which take an integer value which is age. If age is less than 18, then throw new arithmetic exception with the message not valid, else it print the welcome to boot. So now we are passing the 13, so it will print the not valid, or it will throw the arithmetic exception with the message not valid. So here throw keyword is using for throwing the exception by the user or by the by the programmer. So if you run this program, you will get the output exception in threadman java.lang.arithmetic exception not valid. So now you can see the code. So here we create a method, static method, because we are calling this method within the static method main. So we create a static method. So we need not to create the object for calling this method. In this method, we are passing the age, and on the basis of the age, if age is less than 18, then it will throw the arithmetic exception. So if you run this program, you will get the output not valid arithmetic exception. Okay, so this is the use of the throw keyword. Basically, throw keyword is used for the throwing the user defined or custom exception. So how to throw the custom exception, we learn in the upcoming videos, and how to create the custom exception we also learn in the upcoming videos lecture. Now we will talk about the Java throws keyword. We learned the throw, now we will talk about the throws. When we are throwing any checked exception in a method and not handling it, then we need to use the throws keyword in method signature to let caller program know the exceptions that might be thrown by the method. The caller method might handle these exceptions or propagate it to its caller method using throws keyword. We can provide multiple exceptions in the throws clause, and it can be used with main method also. So what is the throws keyword? Basically, if there is a chance or of occurring the exception in our code, and we don't want to handle that code in the try and catch block in in a particular method, and we want its caller method. Its caller method means another method which call this method. So the caller method should handle the exception. So what we do, we just add the throws keywords and the exception name in the method signature. Method signature means where we define the method, we add the throws and give the exception name. So that method is not handle the exception if the occur. It's a caller method means if any method is calling that method, that method will handle that exception. If the caller method also not handling that exception, the caller method can throw the exception. So at the end, if no method is present for the handling the exception, then JVM handle the exception. So here I am showing that suppose I create a test class and there is one method m1, and this method is throw exception, or there is chance of occurring any exception, and this method is not handling the exception. So you can add the throws keywords in the method signature and the exception name. So it's caller method. Caller method means main. Here what is the caller method? Main method. Why main method? Because we are calling the m1 from the main method. If there is any other method from there we are calling the m1 method, then that method will be caller method for the m1. So here method m1 is throwing an exception and not handling. So we use throws keywords saying its caller method, which is main method, will handle the exception. So now in main method we should write m2 method. So now in the main method, if you are calling the m1 method, either you should write the try catch block or you can throw keywords on the main method. So the caller of main method, which is JVM, means JVM call the main method. So JVM will responsible to handle the exception, and JVM use the default exception handler to handle the exception. So let's I show you this on the practical. Okay, so I just copy the code and paste here. So here you are seeing that method m1 is showing the compile time error. What it is showing? It's showing add throws declaration or add throws declaration or surround with try catch block. Why it is saying? Because method m1 is throwing exception. So there is chance either you write the try catch block. So in the try block you write the m1 method, and in the catch block you handle the exception, or or you can add the throws declaration. So here you are not handling the exception which is occurring in the m1 method. So first control come to the main method and it's check if m1 method is throwing any exception. Yes. So m1 is handling this exception which is occurring. No. So what is m1 is doing? M1 is throwing the exception by the help of throws keyword. So now the throws keyword check its caller method. So m1 caller method is the main method. So it comes here and check m1 method is written in the try catch block or not. So we not write the try catch block. So we need to either we define the m1 method in the try catch block or we declare the throws keywords in the main method or the caller method. Now the caller for the main method is JVM. So main method is not handling the exception. like M1 is not handling. So now the main method handles or throws the exception to the JVM. Now JVM handles the exception and terminate the program. JVM use the default exception handler for handling the exception. So now we will talk about the difference between throw and throws. Java throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception. Means there is there is not occurring any exception, but you are throwing exception explicitly. Java throws keyword is used to declare an exception. Checked exception cannot be propagate using throw only. Checked exception can be propagated with throws keywords. Throw is used within the method. Throws is used with the method signature. You cannot throw multiple exception. You cannot throw multiple exception. You can declare multiple exceptions. Example, public void method throws IO exception, SQL exception. So you can throw the multiple exception. Now we will talk how to write a custom exception in Java. We For writing the custom exception, we can extend exception class or we extend the throwable class or any of its subclass to create our custom exception class. The custom exception class can have its own variables and methods that we can use to pass error codes or other exception related information to the exception handler. How to create the custom exception? Suppose you want to create a my exception class as a exception class. So for that, my exception class will extend the throwable class, and in the constructor of my exception class you pass the message and you call this super class constructor. So super class constructor is the throwable class. So when you pass this method, this constructor will call the throwable class constructor. So it will return the exception with this message. So this become so my exception class is now the your exception class like a throwable and a exception, arithmetic exception. These are the exception classes. So my exception class will behave like that classes. So now for the testing purpose, you create a test class. In the main method, you are testing it. So how you will test? Okay, so here you define a variable I equal to 10. And if I greater than 9, if I greater than 9, you are checking the condition. If I greater than 9, then you throw the which exception, the custom exception which we have thrown, which we are throwing. So we are creating the my exception class object and throwing by using the throw keywords. Because we are not handling in the try catch block, so we need to provide the throws keywords, throws my exception. Okay, so if you run this, you will get the output exception in thread main collection. My exception, this is my custom exception. So you are passing this message, so you will get the exception with this custom message. So let's I show you on Eclipse IDE. So here you can see we create a my exception class, extend the throwable class, and passing the some message in the constructor. So if you run this program, you will get the my exception. This is my custom exception message. Okay, so you can create a custom exception by extending exception class as well. So The thing is that you can create your own exception by extending any class. Which type of exception you want to, you can extend that class and you can create your own class. You can pass your own message when the exception occur. So that message will be occur on the screen when you, when that exception will be occur. Now we will talk about the final, finally and finalize keywords in Java. The final keyword can be used with class, method and variable. A final class cannot be instantiated, a final method cannot be overridden, and a final variable cannot be reassigned. This concept, the concept of the final keywords, we have covered in the details in the previous video. So if you are not aware about the final keywords or final variable, final method and final class, just watch my previous video. Finally block. Basically, finally block keyword is used to create a block of code that follows a try block. A finally block of code always executes whether or not an exception has occurred. Using a finally block allows you to run any cleanup type statement that you just wish to execute, despite what happens within the protected code. Means if you, in the finally block, you write that code that you want to, it should be executed always whether the exception occur or not. So that kind of the code we write in the finally block. Now the finalize method. Finalize is the method. Finalize is a used just before object is destroyed and can be called just prior to object creation. So basically finalize is the concept of the garbage collection. Garbage collector call the finalize method when it is just about to destroy the object. So before destroying the object, it call the finalize method to perform any operation on the object.